Hi, and welcome to Equine Business Edge, the podcast for horse professionals who want to build a stronger, more profitable business without losing their passion for the horse industry. I'm your host, Jamie Birch, entrepreneur, horseman, and founder of equinerevshare.com. Each episode, we dive into real-world business strategies, marketing, system, mindset, leadership, growth ideas, specifically for trainers, instructors, clinicians, barn owners, and equine entrepreneurs. This podcast is proudly produced and sponsored by equinerevshare.com, a platform that helps horse professionals earn commissions from the products they already know, use, and recommend every day in one simple click. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Okay, hi, Jamie Birch here with Equine Business Edge. Here is our first solo podcast, and there's a reason why, I wanted to talk about this particular thing first, because it's probably, you're going to hear this from me a lot, but it was one of the biggest changes I've ever made in my business. And that is the idea of working on your business, not just in your business. Now, I have run businesses for almost 30 years. My marketing agency, JEB Commerce, I sold in 2024 after running it for 19 years. And it was probably this concept of working on the business versus working in the business and how they relate to each other. It probably was the biggest thing that took us from like $100,000 a year in revenue to $2 million a year in revenue, and then helped us really get to a point where the business would be attractive to be sold, and someone wanted to be sold. So that's the idea of working in your business versus or working on your business versus in your business. And you can kind of think of it like, are you the technician 100% of the time? So the one out there training horses, the one out there instructing clients, the one out there cleaning stalls, preparing tack, doing all those things? Or are you also spending time planning for your business? So I'm going to share a lot more, but let me tell you if this is you, or you tell me if this is you. Have you ever felt anything like this? After 80 hours of work, you finally sit down to get some rest, but you have that nagging feeling that you need to start finding clients for those open spots that are 6 months. They're open 6 months from now. Or maybe you had a full barn, but all of a sudden, like somebody leaves and they take a couple of their friends, someone retires and moves, and instead of having a full barn, now you have half a barn, and you haven't really been doing anything to attract more people. So now you have half the revenue. You're not profitable. You're probably losing money. You're freaking out, and you have no one in the pipeline to come out there, no one to fill those spots. And so you start marketing, you start making calls, or honestly, maybe you grab a beer and just sit down and tune the world out. Maybe you get a nasty email from a prospective client, and you've been promising them for days to get back to them, but another horse always gets in the way. Your current client gets in the way. And by the end of the day, when you figure to go do that, get back to that client, you forget. You just straight up forget. You're doing a ton of work, but you never feel like you're getting ahead. And you're still broke, but your day and all your days are super full. And, you started a business to have some freedom, maybe some financial success, but now you kind of feel like I have a job and maybe like 10 jobs, and I didn't want a boss, and now I got like 40 bosses. And it sucks. So is that you? If that's you, then this podcast is for you. And what you're probably doing is spending all your time working on the business and really not enough time working. I do it. Working in the business and not enough time spending on the business. So what does that kind of mean? What am I talking about? So working in the business. I've learned this concept from a business coach that I hired, and we're going to do a whole podcast about everybody needs a coach, everybody needs a mentor. But I had hired a business coach from the eMyth Revisited. Write this down right now. The eMyth Revisited. It's on Amazon. It's a phenomenal book. You should definitely read it. But I had a client who I drove over to Seattle. We had our annual review with him. And then he took me and my team out to lunch. And so it was myself and a director and one other staff. At the end of lunch, we were walking out to the car, and my client said, "Hey, I want to talk to you. So send your people up to the car. Let's take our time walking back to our car." And so I thought right there I was getting fired. But that isn't what happened. He turned out to be a mentor of mine for many years, even to this day. And he said, I feel like you're definitely getting us into the end zone, to use a football analogy here or metaphor. But I really would like to feel like you have a process for getting there. Because right now you're gunslinging and you get us there occasionally, but you need a methodical kind of march down that field. I always say, so I'm going to age myself here, but Brett Favre is exciting to watch, but Tom Brady made the end zone and the Super Bowl pretty methodically. So he said, you need to read this book. So I went and grabbed this book. And one of the concepts in the eMyth Revisited, it defines these different roles. And the two that really spoke to me most was the technician and the executive. So think of the technician as probably what you're doing all the time right now. So you are riding horses, you're training horses, you're doing groundwork, you're starting colts, you're fielding client calls, you're fielding client texts, you're teaching lessons, you're feeding horses, you're going to buy feed, you're going to buy stall shavings, getting the trailer prepared for the horse show, hauling to horse shows. And it's the work of your business that your business does. So all those things, scheduling, hauling, maybe posting social media, cleaning, all the daily stuff that you get into. And honestly, most of the horse trainers, one of the reasons I started equinerevshare.com and I started this podcast is because all the horse trainers I know, they spend so much time in the work, in the business, doing the work. Because let's face it, if you're a horse trainer, how many horses can you ride a day? Not a lot. You can't. And if you want to increase your revenue, you have to add another horse. But how many can you ride in a day? And then, and frankly, whatever you do in the horse world, at the end of the day, there's a billion other things you needed to do to generate revenue, and they'll be waiting there tomorrow. And a day off is not something that you've had or have often, and an 8-hour day doesn't exist. You're working 12, 16, and sometimes more hours in every day. But what happens when you're working in the business, things get dropped when you're not working on it. So client calls, prospects get dropped, and you're not actively building a pipeline of new prospects, new potential clients. So when a group of people leave your barn or your business, now you don't have anyone to replace. And that was probably my biggest problem in my first company, my marketing agency. I would have a lot of clients and they were great and fantastic. And I would operate daily in the mode of just delivering that service for them. And that was it. And then we'd have a big client leave. And now I am barely profitable. And that's a problem. And then maybe another client would leave because frankly, clients leave. There's a natural progression of clients coming in and out. But then I would freak out because now I have to go home and tell my wife that we aren't taking as much home as we were the month prior. And I would, I would really, really freak out. And when those moments of stress would happen, I wouldn't know what to do. My wife has been fantastic. This is probably another podcast episode, but she would look at me and she would say, "What are the 3 things you need to be doing to get you out of this problem. And in a roundabout way, she was talking about how do you need to work on the business to fix this. And especially if she saw me stressed out multiple times and anything wasn't getting better. And that's a whole other podcast of having a really good spouse and partner to help you through that. But what happens is you lose clients, and then you have this period of time where now I got to go rush and find new clients. Or you just bring on more clients, as many as you can possibly handle. And then you look at that and go, man, I need to generate another $2,500 this month. I'll just grab a few other clients. So maybe you overreach. You grab more clients than you can actually handle, and their horses aren't being worked, and their horses aren't being trained, their stalls aren't being cleaned, or the deliverables you have promised to provide aren't getting done. So now your reputation falls. Or maybe you're just taking as many clients as you can, but you're not working on the business, so you aren't getting the right client, the right horse owner to come in. You're not getting the right people to teach and instruct. And you're dealing with a lot of bad apples. And that happens all the time. And that was one of the hardest things is really defining what clients I want to work with. We have Denise Alvarez on her podcast. She has amazing resources available and help for that particular item, defining that audience. But you can also find yourself making very little money if you're not thinking about your pricing strategy. So you get into the spot of not a lot of money, zero time. Maybe your work product isn't the same across all your clients, and they know it. You're not able to get to all your clients on time. And then you will literally lose clients and not be able to replace them if you're not working on the business and you're only working in the business. You'll have these huge ebbs and flows in the business, and you're a business owner. I'm preaching to the choir here. The most stressful thing for me and my wife was the ebbs and flows. When business was great, man, it was great. Champagne and caviar. And then it would be not so great. And when it was not so great, it was really bad. And that roller coaster was pretty constant, and honestly was really impacting my health, my marriage, and my relationship with my kids. So getting to a point where I spent time working on the business was super huge. So what's working on the business? So this is, when you get up and you head to the barn and you're grab that first horse and you're grooming and you're getting ready to train, do some groundwork, whatever you need to do, that's all working in the business. You're right now in the mode of a technician. You have to get into the mode of the CEO, the executive. So what are the types of things that a CEO executive does? Take a moment, think about that. What does a business owner, when he's operating in owning the business or working on the business as like the executive and the CEO, what is he going to be working on, right? So that is like strategy. What type of clients do I want? What type of horses do I want? How do I only get the type of clients and the type of horses that I actually want? What are my prices going to be? And actually thinking about that. Now, you probably, when you started with your pricing, you went out there and saw simply what other people were doing. Or a lot of times what we do is we say, well, maybe they'll pay me $500 a month and I'll take $500 a month. And then you never revisit that. And so now how many horses do you need to take at $500 a month to make this worthwhile? It's a lot. And so they're thinking about pricing. Now, your marketing plans. How are you going to continue marketing yourself, your business on a regular basis? And this is one of the biggest areas that people miss. And with the people that I have coached over the years, including a few horse trainers, it's the area that's super hard to keep going in perpetuity. Because what happens is, you will start doing some marketing, you'll get full, and then maybe you'll get more than full, and you can't do it, and you just can't find the time to do that anymore. And that's a really big problem. So how are you going to grow? How are you going to hire? What kind of services are you going to provide? That planning of the strategy and the planning of, where do you want to be 5 years from now in a business? And man, how are you going to get there? And what do you need to do today and next week and next month and next year to make sure that you get to where you're going? Processes. This is one that I really love to talk about, is processes. Now, this is not sexy. This is not winning a futurity. This is not seeing your client win a world show or a buckle for the first time. It is not exciting stuff. It's not riding a phenomenal horse or building a new arena. This is not exciting stuff. Processes is the unsexy side of the business that can make or break you. And so if you have no client intake process or going to the show process or firing a client process or invoicing process or tax process, if you have no way of doing business, you're going to be inefficient. You're going to be spending too much time on everything. And frankly, you're recreating it. And we're going to do a solo episode or maybe a series of episodes on processes and what I learned about that. So those are the things that you would do. And that's not a comprehensive list, but that is the difference between working in the business, training a horse, cleaning a stall, cleaning the barn, versus working on the business, planning your marketing, planning your pricing, developing a new product, creating your strategy, creating processes to make things flow. So why do horse professionals, and honestly, this goes for dang near everybody, every business owner, why do they get stuck? So if you hear me shuffling pages, I have a bunch of notes and things I want to get through. So why do horse professionals get stuck? I mean, the first thing is one, they don't know the difference. You may have never heard this concept before. And I have run multiple businesses. If you listen to the intro, the intro episode, I ran a successful marketing agency for 19 years, started a healthcare agency that was 5 times the size of that agency in half the time. And I've started a winery, online courses for all sorts of things. So I've done a lot of those things, and in each one kind of fall into the same thing. You get stuck in the business of doing the work. And so you may have never been told, like, you have to dedicate time to running the business, to being the CEO, as well as actually doing the work. And we start out that way, right? When you started the business, you had to sit down and probably said, this is what I want to do. I want to board horses. I want to train horses. I want to travel the country and be a clinician. I want to instruct dressage riders. I want to instruct ranch riders. All those sort of things. Maybe you're developing a new rope for ropers. And you sat down and said, this is how I'm going to do it. Very quickly, things start to take off. Even if they don't, you get stuck in the business of doing the work. We also in this country have a tendency to glorify the hustle culture. If you are really busy and you're hustling and you're working 80 hours a week and you tell someone that, man, that's like that's a feather in your cap. There's a lot of honor that we bestow upon each other when we hear that we're working like that. So there's that. You may be in there because you're reactive. You started this business and now clients are calling and horses are having trouble and you got to go to the vet and all this stuff is coming at you. And after running businesses for almost 30 years, I can tell you that happens all the time. This stuff just coming at you and kind of punching you in the face and you're just reacting. You have to wear every hat in your business so often. And then maybe that's why, you're stuck. And there's this guilt from stepping away from the work. Have you tried this before, to plan and maybe spend some time on your marketing, or even you have to do invoicing and you can see the horses and the clients wondering where you are and waiting for you and not moving forward. And you have this guilt of like, I need to be out there. Maybe you've never actually learned this business skill, and that can definitely happen. And you just never practiced it. So what happens when we only work in the business and we never work on it? Burnout. How many of us are just freaking tired? What started out as a dream of training really awesome horses and hosting clinics or going around the world to all these amazing places and teaching other people how to do things and how to ride or whatever you're doing. You had this dream, and it's quickly turned into a job. It's quickly turned into a nightmare. You will hit income ceilings when you're not working on the business because you're not planning. You never increase your revenue, increase your prices, find better clients, find better horses by accident. That doesn't happen by accident. What happens by accident is you look out there and you got a barn full of ugly horses, not clients, but ugly horses that can't do anything, pain in the butt clients that want to pay you less, and a bank account that is really low. And frankly, you're just depressed and in a bad state. It's chaos. Like everything is chaos. Every day you wake up. I used to tell my wife this. I would wake up before we really had the business lined out. And I would just say to myself, what holy hell do I have to face today? And maybe that resonates with you. The financial stress is real. For the first 5 years of the business, my wife and I alternated, crying on the bed in the fetal position. Many times her asking me, why can't you just go get a damn job? So there's the financial stress leads to all these other stresses. You're going to stop growing. If you're not working on the business and doing it regularly, you're just going to stop growing. And I hated the phrase, like, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. I hated that. I'm like, why can't we get to a certain size, the size that I like, and stay that way? Well, it's one of nature's cruel little laws. If you're not growing, you are dying. And so you have to continue to grow or you'll lose clients and then you're right back there. You got to fill that all in again. You're not going to have any systems, and really, you're not going to have any freedom. And those are the consequences of not working on your business. So, I told you what this is, kind of a little bit of my story. We talked about what happens when you never do it. So, what happens when you are spending time, working on your business? You're going to offer a better client experience because you're going to have processes and systems for intake, for delivering your service, for delivering your invoices, for answering your client calls, for instruction, for teaching, for clinics, for travel. You're going to be very efficient. You'll have increased income opportunities because you'll have time. You'll be spending time thinking about those, letting everything go to the side, taking a deep breath and figuring out how you move forward in that direction. You'll have more organization, and it's not sexy. It's annoying. The last thing I ever wanted to do, and if you asked my family, they would not look at me as organized. That wasn't the case growing up. But now, outside of the inside of my vehicle and my half of the bedroom, I am incredibly organized. And it leads to, I've made way more money when that happens. You have less stress because I have a new prospect coming in, and they always come in Tuesdays because those are my new client days. Or we got a show going up. I didn't even have to worry about the checklist. I have it written down. And frankly, I don't have to do it because my groomer is going to do it or whatever that is. You're going to have some scalability. You can't scale without processes. You can't bring on an assistant trainer. You can't bring on someone to take care of your travel plans if you don't have and you're not working on your business. And you're going to have sustainability. When you're working on the business regularly, you're going to be able to survive the long haul. And you're going to have some fun. Now, there's nothing more depressing and stressful than running a business, I think. I like I said, I've run several. And the mental health of business owners can be pretty bad, especially if you feel like the world is coming at you and you can't seem to get ahead, and you can't seem to make money, and you horse professionals. I'm not a horse professional. I'm not a trainer. I show horses. I have horses. I have all this behind me, and we love it. But you guys bleed. It's blood, sweat, and tears, so we can go do really cool stuff. And that's awesome. It's an awesome thing, and you should be enjoying it and be rewarded for it too. So, what do you do to start working on the business as opposed to just in it? First, you have to make a commitment to yourself. I'm going to spend X amount of time working on the business. I call it the power hour. Some people call it the CEO hour. I call it the power hour. I actually learned that from another coach that I had from the Hands Off CEO, Mandy and Jennifer. They taught us the power hour. And you kind of, what it is find the 1 hour in your day. And frankly, for you guys, it may be 1 hour in your week. What's the 1 hour in your week where you have the ability to turn your phone off, lock the door wherever you are, and basically tune the world out. You're not answering client texts. You're not scrolling Facebook. You're not, you are untouchable, but you're also wildly productive. What I found for me, this was either after all my kids went to bed, and my wife usually goes to bed early. So it was either after everyone had settled down, and I'm a night owl. So sometimes it was 11 o'clock, 11 to midnight. That's when I would do so much of my planning. But most of the time it was the first hour I walked into the office, and it would be, I would do it every day, but you could do it once a week. So there's no writing, there's no lessons, there's no distractions. It's just strategy and business, thinking about your business, marketing, pricing, growth, processes, efficiency, client acquisition, things like that. But you have to one, be unavailable. Sometimes I wouldn't go into the office for that time. So maybe you don't go to the barn. You find a spot. I would often go to a coffee shop that I knew I wasn't going to be bothered in. I get a nice cup of coffee, and I would do some things. I would not open my email. I wouldn't open my email. I would turn off my phone. No one could get a hold of me, but it was on my calendar. And that's the other big thing. Use a calendar and put it on your calendar. And it's probably the biggest way to start working on your business is start working in a calendar. Google, you probably have Gmail. The calendar is there. You may have to teach yourself some discipline on using that calendar. And if you want some ideas on how to use that, please let me know. Comment. Send me an email at jamie@equinerevshare.com, and we'll do something on that. But you dedicate that hour. So start with an hour a week. And you can look at your schedule and go, you know what? It looks like, and the only time I have is Tuesday at 2:30 to 3:30. Great. Put it on the calendar, and don't let anyone take that hour. And let anyone on your team know that you can't get a hold of me during this time. It's sacred. It is sacred. And then you turn off your phone, you turn off your email, whatever you use to communicate with others, you don't use it right then. And then you start to work on those things. So maybe you identify, the biggest problem. Maybe it's you need new customers. Maybe you need to figure out how to how to increase your prices. And so just take that hour, identify your biggest business obstacles, and just start tackling it. What I found, and what I had my whole company do this. There was 30 employees at the time at that marketing agency. I had them all do it. They had to invite me to their power hour on the calendar so I could see it. What we found is when you took out all the distractions and you weren't scrolling Facebook or now TikTok, if you weren't checking email, you weren't interrupted by clients. And that's the thing, like they were not allowed to schedule a client call. So in your instance, you're not going to evaluate another horse, another client. You're not going to field calls. You're not going to answer texts during this hour. And what happens when you have that whole hour of purely dedicated time to what you want to work on? You really found like 10 hours. You were able to do so much work in that 1 hour. It was really unreal. Excuse me. So that 1 hour completely undistracted and unbothered, you were able to get way, way more done. And we're going to actually have someone on the podcast, Jennifer Ballard, her and I worked on this together. She's a barrel trainer in Spokane, Washington. And she does this and really found value, and it helped her to do a lot. Because just think, if you don't have to be bothered by anybody, how much can you get done? And it is a tremendous amount. And that's really the big lesson. The hustle wasn't enough for any of my businesses to grow. You really had to work on the business. And my big story about how that changed was, and I'll tell this when we talk about processes, but my dad was in manufacturing and running manufacturing companies like Adams Peanut Butter, Nally's, worked at Olin on the East Coast. And he would often tell me as I'm running this marketing agency, it's like, hey, you got to make things more efficient. You got to spend time working on the business. You got to create processes. And I was like many young men, Dad, you have no idea what you're talking about, or this business is different. It's the same, and they're all the same. So when I got that call from my mentor, got that walk from my mentor, I went back and started looking at how do we do things as a business. I locked myself in the office for like 6 days, I think. And I come out and created a playbook of how we do things. And it was literally everything that we do processed out. And that period of time working on the business where clients couldn't get a hold of me, the team couldn't get a hold of me, they all had to figure out their own crap on their own. That allowed me to figure out better ways to do the business that we do. And we were able to take, I would probably say 25% more clients because we had a way of doing things. And you may be thinking, there's no way I can take another client. I'm willing to bet if we sat down and we looked at your processes and your systems, we'd find enough hours in the week for you to take another. Now, we can talk about whether you want to do that or not, but your business is a little more hands-on, a little more tiring physically than what we were doing. But we went from having no way of doing business to doing that. And then over the years, if and when we adhered to that power hour, where we would just work on the business and nothing else, we were able to solve problems that were going to happen. We were able to land business before we needed it. We created strategies that we were able to execute without spending more time on any of those things. We weren't adding things for us to do. And it really, really helped. It also, like emotionally, this helps. It gets you from when you're reacting in your business and your text messages or your inbox or your voicemails dictate your day, like what you're going to do that day, it's incredibly stressful. Like now you have a ton of bosses and you feel like I got to fight all these fires and it sucks. Like it really takes a toll on you emotionally. When you move out of that and you move into what are the things I actually need to be doing, and you spend that hour focusing on that, on the business, on all those things we talked about, you really are able to move away from that reactive part. I keep thinking of Clinton Anderson's videos of the reactive part of the brain and the thinking part, but it is really a good analogy. Like that reactive part where you're just blocking missiles and punches that are coming at you. You're never going to grow the business that way. It's never going to feel sustainable. It's going to be, if it's not unfun. Is that a word? If it's not unfun, it will become unfun. It will become stressful. You guys do amazing work. You work very, very hard in what you do. And I want you to be in a good place financially, emotionally, and to really enjoy the business that you build. So that's what I want you to do this week. I want you to schedule an hour every week for you to work on the business. If it's 2 a.m, maybe it's 4 a.m. before you get to the barn. Maybe it's at lunch. I want you to schedule that time and guard it. Let everyone you work with that would need to know that you're not going to be able to get a hold of me. Do not schedule things over this hour. And then the biggest problem is going to be you sticking with it. So this next week, schedule that hour, spend that hour focusing on your business, and then email me or comment below. I'll address every single one. What were the problems and obstacles you identified, and what were solutions that you came up with? But that's the way to get started on working on your business, is that power hour. You got into horses, into this business because you love the animals and you want to be doing this. You really need to start working on the business so you can keep that passion and that enjoyment in it. So thank you guys. I hope you learned something today, bringing really tried and true business practices to the equine industry. I was fortunate. I grew up in a family that was business oriented. Like I said, my dad and my mom both worked in manufacturing. So around the dinner table, honestly, we kind of talked about stuff like this: management, processes, just in time, lean manufacturing, all this weird stuff. And so I had that stuff kind of come naturally. I always had a mentor. And when I started my businesses, that was a base level of information that we already had. I want you guys to have the same. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But please like and subscribe, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Share this with a friend. If you know a horse trainer or horse professional, barn manager, whatever, that would really benefit from this. If you see them they're always overwhelmed, then they need to listen to this podcast. Follow Equine Business Edge. Follow equinerevshare.com on Facebook and TikTok. And think about right now, what's one thing you want to change about your business? What is that? Now, go schedule that power hour and add that to the description of what you're doing. Anyway, my name is Jamie Birch with Equine Business Edge. Thank you so much for listening to this first solo episode of our podcast. I hope you found it useful. So anyway, like, subscribe, do all those things, and let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm off my rocker, if you think there's no possible way that you can incorporate this into your business. Email me. I'll personally help you figure that out. I haven't had any person in any business ever not be able to find that hour and not benefit from it. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this episode of Equine Business Edge. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure you subscribe, follow, and share this episode with another horse professional who could benefit from it. Word of mouth is how great businesses and great podcasts grow, and your support truly helps us reach more people in the horse industry. And this podcast is proudly produced and sponsored by equinerevshare.com. equinerevshare.com was built specifically for horse professionals. Trainers, instructors, clinicians, boarding facilities, influencers, breeders, and all sorts of equine business owners who are already recommending products to clients every single day. Whether it's tack, supplements, grooming products, apparel, feed, training tools, or barn equipment, your clients are already asking what you use and trust. And we provide a way for you to make that happen, earn a commission, and all doing it the same way you do it right now. Equine RevShare helps you turn those recommendations into an additional income stream by giving you access to retail partnerships and easy-to-share product links from equine brands and retailers all over the world, all in one place. No complicated tech, no inventory, no awkward selling, just your cell phone. Just a simple way to get rewarded for the influence and trust you've already built in the horse industry. To learn more or get started, visit equinerevshare.com. And thanks again for being here. We'll see you in the next episode of Equine Business Edge.